Hello, hello. So I wanted to chat a little bit about theme and conflict because one of my big goals for last month was kind of figuring out how I wanted to do that and creating like cheat sheets and doing all my research as I slowly build things up. So I will show it to you in a second, but essentially I wanted to make like a general cheat sheet for myself on like conflict and theme and how I want to incorporate that in my stories so that I can like look at it and reference it every time I work on a project. And then I put together a like, what would you call it? A handout form that I can fill out to put like my project in, and then I made one for my book. And it's just like a single sheet, easy thing that I can just have with me and reference every time I'm like, just to keep things visible and present because I have trouble keeping things in mind if I can't visibly see them. So let me get a little screen record up real quick so that I can show this to you. Recording. Okay, let's scoot you over a little bit. Okay, so this is my conflict and theme cheat sheet, I suppose. And I've read through a lot of books. And some of my favorite ones are, I really like Anatomy of a Story. I really like Story by Robert McKee. I really like Story Genius. I like all of these stories and how they keep things together. But in terms of the way that makes the most sense to think about this like core conflict theme line type thing is either the controlling idea from Story, which is kind of how and why life changes from one condition to another, competing ideas, and what changes the value. So it's this idea of what the value is and then what the change is. And that value could be like the theme, the message, that sort of a thing. And then Anatomy of Story has a theme line, which is like right or wrong actions and what they do to a person's life, focusing on the moral effects of the story. So that's more like moral and consequence, which the moral, again, that can be like, your theme, the lesson, but then it focuses on the consequences, which these are very similar, right? Like value change, moral consequence. They're kind of talking about the same thing here, but like for some reason they sort of click differently in my brain. So that's kind of that main idea. So I'll have at the top basically whatever that core conflict is in the story or what my theme line is. And then on the left, I have the competing ideas. And a lot of this is from Story, but it's the idea of you have your idea and your counter idea. And these are the two things that are fighting back and forth in the story that will eventually lead to like your theme line or central idea being established. So yeah, they compete throughout the story, creating that positive, negative, and neutral changes or charges of theme. They grow up until the conflict climax, and then some examples are justice versus injustice, love versus hate, good versus evil. Like, they can be super general like that, or they can be a lot more specific, but kind of keeping those in mind and how those pull into every other conflict and like theme in the story, I think helps me, right? And then I have major opposing forces, and these are basically the tangible-ish forces in the story that are representing these different ideas or like subversions of the ideas, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's like different parts of society, different characters, maybe a character's like inner or outer self. And you can also consider these as like sub-themes or side themes if they don't directly relate into the theme. But I think it's pretty clear that this is just a section for me to be like, okay, these are my opposing forces. These are my conflicts. I should be pulling back and forth with these with everything and keeping these in mind when I develop my societies and my characters and everything more in depth, because I want to really, lean into the conflict, really play up the conflict. And if I'm not sure how to add something, I can look at this and be like, okay, like what would be the best way to add conflict to the story, right? And then I can like figure out where I want it to go. I can keep track of everything, how they relate, how they move back and forth, like that sort of stuff. So then I have a section on the main character's dilemma specifically, which, in Story by McKee, the main character must eventually choose between the two competing ideas, establishing the controlling idea, moral, or theme of the story. And that is not tangibly what the character is choosing between, right? Like, the theme is a little bit more high concept, and the character-specific choice, like how it plays out, is a lot more detailed, granular. Like, in the world and the story and the plot, right? So I find it really helpful to keep track of that. And typically the true dilemma can have options, a lot of different ways that you can do it, right? But the main thing here is that both options need to have equal weight / value, right? Like the things that they're choosing between. So choice between two irreconcilable goods or the lesser of two evils is like the simplest way to do it. You can only have A if you sacrifice B and vice versa. So then even more compelling, you can combine the two good and two bad choices. So like choice A has both positive and negative aspects and choice B has both positive and negative aspects. So I sort of have those detailed down below where you can see like the simple one, have A sacrifice B, have B sacrifice A. Keep forgetting I can actually like touch things. And then the one below that is you can avoid A and suffer B, or avoid B and suffer A. I think I have a typo there. And then the last one ties into some videos by Abby Emmons, who is a author tuber, but she talks about this idea of like want versus fear versus desire, where your main character starts with choosing to go after their want while avoiding their fear and ignoring their true desire. So positive want, negative fear, neutral desire, which eventually changes to going after their desire as well while still avoiding their fear, positive want and desire, negative fear, until eventually they realize they have to face their fear to get what they really want or desire, usually also achieving their want, potentially, which is kind of all three positives. So there's different ways you can look at that. It doesn't quite fit into this quite as naturally, but like having that there as a visual kind of helps me think about it. And then I can really go back and forth in making these choices strong and making sure they're compelling and making sure the readers will be going through this and being not sure which way it's going to go, right? Like I want it to not feel inevitable, right? And then I also have a little thing on the side for major characters. And this is getting a little bit into character, which I want to do separate like cheat sheets for later. But each major character should contribute to the like major themes and conflicts of the story. So in Story by McKee, they talk about how every member of the cast will have dimensions that create conflict and push and pull on different sides of the main character's dilemma. And in Anatomy of Story, it talks about how each major character represents a variation on the theme where, due to different values, they've made different choices. And then you can establish their moral arguments, justifying their approach to reach their goals. So this is just a good way to sort of show how different characters are going to play into conflict and themes specifically. And I didn't flesh this part out yet, right, because I haven't finished fleshing out my characters. But when I go back into my like cheat sheet for this with actual stuff on it for my story, I'm going to expand that part out just so I can really see it all the time. And this might be something that I put up. I'm not sure yet, but let's scroll down. Can you see this? Yes. Okay. So this is the little like worksheet I made for myself to use. So I have like a spot for my project title. I have a place to put my controlling idea, which is like value and change or moral and consequences. Places to put my competing ideas, so the idea and the counter idea, and then any details about them. I have templates, and I, might have like 5 or 6 of these, but I can kind of put this is force A, this is force B, details about them, and I can have that for each of those sets of opposing, push-pull forces. And then I have this section here for the main character's dilemma, where I can have, whatever this is going to be, however I choose to do it. If it might be simple, might be complicated, but I can have that here. I can detail the different choices, like, oh, this is this side, this is this side. And then even if I don't go with the like Abby Emmons version of this, I like the idea of writing down their want, their desire, and their like fear and misbelief. I just think that like clicks really well for my brain, so I kept a section there for me to fill those in so that I can reference that and see that and be, reminded of that all the time. And then I just put some slots for my major characters down here and how I want to just some ideas and thoughts for me to think about when I'm putting these together. And for the most part, my goal is to use this in a way where I can keep it like one page, but I could see if you have a lot going on, like if it's like a more epic story or there's just a lot more moving pieces or something, I could see having like maybe major characters on another page or something so that you have just more room to spread everything out. But yeah, so that's sort of what I've been working on and fleshing out, and like, it's been fun. I've been enjoying it, and it just kind of helps with my brain, and I'm gonna make these again for at least a number of other things. So like for characters, I'm gonna put these together, and then I might do something for them with like the plot or something. I'm not entirely sure, and I think I'll end up making like cheat sheets for each like arc so I can remember where they are at each stage. So like the relationships between all my different characters is going to be really complex, so I want to know like these are the turning points and these are the different stages of their relationship so I can keep track of it, because like when you're writing a first draft and it takes many, many months, it's hard to remember, like, where exactly are these people, what's happened, like, where are they in their, like, push and pull with their relationships. It's like, that's one of those things that I feel like makes a okay book into a really, really good book, when you have that consistency of ideas and themes, and like they're referencing things that happened earlier in the book and conversations and like those kind of things that are hard to pull together in the earlier stages of a book just because everything changes so fast, and so you don't want to like entangle it too much because then you can't edit it as well, and like, you know, they're definitely later stage things to make really neat or hard things to keep consistent, but I think that really, really helps. And just having it feel like everything that happened before that stage that you're reading actually happened is influencing what they're doing in that scene. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but that's something I'm going to work on. So if this is like a helpful thing for people to like see and for me to share, I can do this for, you know, when I work on character, when I work on, you know, all the other cheat sheets I want to put together just to kind of condense my favorite, like, ideas and thoughts that are helpful for me for various, like, craft books and stuff like that. Like, you know, I can share those. Just let me know. But for now, I am going to go. And keep an eye out for, I think February is character month, so I'm going to be working on a lot of character stuff. I still have a lot of videos coming out right now for doing the like high-level cultural societal world building, which I definitely won't have all those videos out this month because like it's already the 28th and I've gotten one out, so it's going to be drawn out, but most of them are at some level of like planned or ready or something like that. So yes, those will be coming out interspersed as well. But yes, I will talk to you later.